Most men say they want a powerful woman, but the truth is, most men collapse the moment they meet one, not because she is too much, but because she reveals everything they have not yet mastered within themselves. And if you've ever felt your confidence shake, your composure slip, your clarity disappear in the presence of a woman who is grounded, emotionally intelligent, and deeply aware, then this message is for you, because what you felt in that moment wasn't attraction, it was exposure. And this is where everything begins to change. Most men believe they want a woman who is confident, emotionally deep, self-aware, spiritually intelligent, and strong in her standards. But when they actually encounter her in reality, something inside them tightens, something becomes unstable. Their nervous system shifts, their thoughts speed up, their behavior becomes inconsistent, and the version of themselves they thought they had built begins to crack. Because they were never prepared to stand beside that level of feminine presence. And this is where Carl Jung points us toward something deeper, that what disturbs you externally is often what remains unresolved internally. A powerful woman does not create your instability. She reveals it. And here's what most men don't realize. There are two very different experiences of feminine power, and confusing them will keep you trapped in cycles you believe you've already outgrown. The first is chaotic feminine energy, the kind you've likely already encountered, the kind that pulls you in through intensity, unpredictability, emotional highs and lows, the kind that triggers your wounds, keeps you guessing, keeps you chasing, keeps you trying to stabilize something that cannot be stabilized because it is rooted in unresolved pain. That energy activates your shadow, but not your growth. It pulls you into reaction, not evolution. But then there is the second, the one most men are not ready for. The aligned feminine, the grounded woman, the one who is emotionally aware, internally stable, deeply present, and capable of seeing through performance instantly. She does not chase, she does not manipulate, she does not create chaos to feel alive. She reflects truth. And that reflection is what unsettles men who are not yet grounded in themselves. Because she does not meet your mask, she meets your reality. And this is where most men fail, not because they lack strength, but because they lack stability. Because when they meet a woman like this, they rush. They move too quickly, they overinvest emotionally, they try to secure her, impress her, lock her in, not because they are certain, but because they are afraid. Afraid of losing her, afraid of not being enough, afraid of being exposed. But a sovereign man moves differently. He does not rush toward intensity. He does not accelerate connection out of fear. He moves at the pace of truth, slow, grounded, intentional. Because he understands something most men do not. What is aligned does not disappear. And what requires urgency is often rooted in insecurity. And this is the moment where everything shifts. Because a powerful woman is not testing you to break you. She is revealing whether you can hold yourself. Her presence brings intensity, yes, but not chaos. Depth, not confusion. Awareness, not projection. And if a man lacks internal structure, he collapses under that. He becomes reactive, defensive, uncertain. He tries to control the dynamic, or worse, he tries to please, to adapt, to become what he thinks she wants. And in doing so, he leaves himself. But a sovereign man does not leave himself, not for connection, not for validation, not for attraction. He stays. He stays in his body, in his breath, in his clarity, in his standards. He does not rush to fill silence. He does not explain excessively. He does not react to every emotional wave. He receives her presence the way a mountain receives a storm, without moving. And this is what creates polarity. This is what creates respect. This is what creates attraction at the deepest level. Not performance, but presence. And here is where most men lose everything they could have had. They abandon their mission. They shift their focus away from purpose and toward the relationship. They begin to revolve around her, adjust their time, their energy, their direction, slowly placing her at the center of their life. And in that moment, the dynamic collapses. Because a powerful woman does not want to be your purpose. She wants to walk beside a man who already has one, because only a man anchored in direction is stable enough to build something real. When a man abandons his mission for a woman, he loses himself, and she feels it instantly. And this is the part no one teaches men, the ability to let go without collapsing. Because the final test is not how you show up when everything is going well. It is how you remain when something pulls away. Most men fear two things: not being chosen and being left. And both come from the same place, the wounded part that still believes his value is determined externally. But the sovereign man understands something deeper. If she chooses me, good. If she doesn't, also good. If she stays, beautiful. If she leaves, aligned. Because his center is not dependent on her presence, and that is what makes him powerful. Not control, not dominance, not intensity, but self-possession. The ability to remain whole regardless of outcome. And this is what the feminine responds to at the deepest level. Not words, not effort, but stability. Because a woman cannot rest in a man who is afraid of losing her. She can only relax in a man who will not lose himself. And when a man reaches this stage, everything changes. He no longer attracts chaos, he attracts clarity. He no longer reacts to intensity, he remains grounded within it. He no longer seeks validation, he operates from internal certainty. His presence deepens, his energy stabilizes, his voice slows, his decisions sharpen, and without trying, he becomes magnetic. Not because he is doing more, but because he is no longer leaking energy through fear. Because what you are facing in that moment is not her, it is yourself, reflected back with precision. A powerful woman does not distort reality to comfort your ego. She does not shrink to accommodate your uncertainty. She does not soften truth to protect your identity. She simply stands in what she is, and in doing so, she forces you to see what you are not yet fully anchored in. And this is why so many men misinterpret the experience. They think she is too intense, too demanding, too much, when in reality, she is simply clear. Clear in her energy, clear in her boundaries, clear in her presence. And clarity exposes instability. This is where Jung's deeper teaching comes into play, that the parts of us we have not fully integrated will always be activated by the external world until they are brought into consciousness and embodied. So when you feel that contraction, that pressure, that subtle loss of center in the presence of a powerful woman, it is not a signal to withdraw. It is a signal to stabilize, not to chase, not to perform, not to prove, but to return inward and reinforce your foundation. Because the sovereign masculine is not built in isolation from challenge. It is built through it. Through moments where your identity is tested, where your emotional control is stretched, where your nervous system is pushed beyond its familiar patterns, and you are given a choice to react or to remain. And every time you choose to remain, every time you hold your center instead of abandoning it, you strengthen something that cannot be taken from you. And over time, this creates a shift that is unmistakable. You no longer experience powerful women as overwhelming. You experience them as equal. Not above you, not below you, not something to win or secure, but something to meet. And that is the moment polarity becomes natural, connection becomes effortless, and respect becomes mutual. Because now, you are no longer trying to rise to her level. You are standing in your own. So if you recognize yourself in this, if you've ever felt your composure shift in the presence of a woman who was fully in her power, understand this clearly. You are not lacking something external. You are being shown what must be stabilized internally. This is not rejection. This is refinement. This is the next stage of your evolution. And the question is simple. Can you remain yourself in the presence of intensity? Because that is where the boy ends and the sovereign man begins. Chop wood, carry water, and let's keep the fire burning.